I put 99.9% odds that you've never noticed this. Here, I'll show you. I'll scooch up real close to a target dummy and fire this bow, the Phantom Phoenix, but in the opposite direction. The arrows do not touch the dummy, veering off into the distance, but you'll notice that the dummy is still taking damage. Huh. As you might have guessed, this is because the Phantom Phoenix deals contact damage, as in the bow sprite itself deals contact damage, just like a sword sprite would. This behavior is not unique to the Phantom Phoenix. This also occurs when using the Phantasm, Celebration Mark II, and Vortex Beater. All 4 of these weapons deal sword-like contact damage when they absolutely shouldn't be. They're not melee weapons, so why does this happen, and why these weapons specifically? Well, this bug is a result of a quirk of projectile code in Terraria. You see, most range weapons in Terraria use Terraria's quote standard item code. When you use the item sprite appears in front of it following some predetermined path, and whatever effect is done, in this case meaning an arrow is shot out. Pretty straightforward. Now when using a bow, gun, or launcher, the game makes sure that the weapon sprite itself deals no damage. This is done with the no melee tag, which is assigned to all range weapons. This means only the projectiles fired by the weapon deal damage, which is what we want. However, things work differently for 4 little weapons here. These weapons are unique in that they don't use the quote standard item code, but instead use a projectile. When you use the Phantom Phoenix, you aren't actually seeing the weapon's rendered item sprite, like normal, but a stationary projectile that looks like the Phantom Phoenix. This goes for the other 3 as well. Using a projectile instead of the weapon sprite means you have a lot more versatility in how the weapon acts and moves. It's why spears use projectiles too. All 4 of these weapons are special weapons with special abilities, and so Relogic probably thought it was easier to implement these weapons using a projectile instead of the standard mechanism. And this brings us back to contact damage. Since the Phantom Phoenix we see here is actually a projectile, the no melee tag making weapon sprites deal no contact damage no longer applies, since, well, it's not a weapon sprite. If a projectile has a damage value assigned to it, which this projectile obviously does, then it will deal contact damage to whatever it touches. After all, dealing damage is kinda supposed to be their thing. This means that the bow projectile, stationary as it may be, also deals damage, and it does. Hello, hope you enjoyed this short one. Thank you to Perennial, this is a bad name, for coming up with this idea and noticing it. Much thanks. If you enjoy my content, consider subscribing, as only about a quarter of you are. Either way though, thank you for watching, and good day, and goodbye. See you next week.